Welcome to Everything Counts Sports Edition, a special 4-part podcast series featuring 4 of Investec's brand ambassadors. Once a month, we'll sit down with one of our brand ambassadors and really get frank about money, how they made it, how it's shaped them, and the financial mistakes they've made along the way. Hello, I'm Mateo Khwaripa, the host of Everything Counts Sports Edition. In this episode, we shift focus to women's professional sport, where limited visibility and media coverage often means limited access to the financial resources that really can support an athlete's long-term career ambitions. My next guest is someone who truly understands what it means to play the long game. At just 5 years old, Kaiyuree Moodley picked up her first golf club, and almost 20 years later, she hasn't looked back. Described as a fierce competitor, Kaiyuree turned pro last year, cementing her place as the rising star on the Sunshine Ladies Tour and the Ladies European Tour. But her love and passion for golf hasn't been without its challenges.
Yeah.
You got into golf quite early, right? 4 or 5 years old. Have your parents told you the story of how that happened?
I started playing when I was around 4, and at the time we were living in Durban, and my mom had come home with a plastic set of golf clubs from Pick n Pay. And at the point, I didn't have any Barbies. I loved playing with Batman and Spider-Man. I just knew that I was more of a sporty girl than a girly girl. So I was just hitting the plastic ball from one end of the house to the other, and we had relocated up to Johannesburg, and I went to the World of Golf, and coaches had seen me and they said that I had a natural talent, so I just carried on going.
At what point did you realize that this was going to be a thing for you? I mean, there's a lot of sporting codes you could have gone into, netball, football, any sort of sport you could have played, but you stuck it out with golf.
I started playing international golf from a young age, which was fantastic, playing SA Kids Golf and going over to the States and going over to Europe to play US Kids Golf. And I knew from then I had great success doing that, competing against other kids my age from all over the world. And I kind of knew, this is what I want to do. I'm good at what I do. And I see myself doing this for the rest of my life. I don't want to sit in an office from a 9-to-5 job. I just want to be out on the course.
Look, a lot of CEOs try to find a lot of time on the course. So you're quite lucky. And when we're looking at your career, right, your family has been a big support for you. Just tell us about the emotional backing that they've given you throughout the years, and also just being there for all the tournaments.
It's been amazing having their support. My dad used to caddy for me when I was younger as well, until I did kick him off the bag eventually. But yes, he came and watched from whether it was in the bushes or whether he was carrying my bag. He was a big supporter, and my mom as well, my brother too. So having their support has been great, especially now playing pro golf. It's quite a lonely game, so having them behind me is fantastic.
Golf is still viewed as one of those games that's quite expensive to get into when you look at the golf clubs and maybe the members' fees as well. Have you had the conversation with your parents around what it was like financially to support your dream?
Now that I am older, now that I am doing this full time, I can see myself how much it costs. I mean, for a new set of clubs to be affiliated to a golf course, it all costs money. I mean, you can't really put a numerical value on it, but it definitely wasn't a conversation that needed to be had. I fully understood how much everything costs. And I mean, most kids will say when they were growing up, their parents would give them spending money. For me, it wasn't in that sense. My spending money came for, I'm playing a tournament on Saturday and Sunday. That's what my spending money is going to.
You then got the opportunity to go to college in the US. How much of a big change was that, given that you were going at it on your own this time around and your family was not flying with you to the US?
It wasn't too bad. I traveled a lot, as I said, when I was younger, and I was part of the Golf RSA national squad. So we were selected to go to all parts of the world, and obviously our parents couldn't come with. So I think I grew up from a very young age. I knew that that's what was required of me. So going to college wasn't too bad. The only thing was that, I now have to pay my rent. I have to, pay for my own health insurance, pay for food, cook the food. It's just things like that obviously I definitely took for granted when I was at home, and having to go and learn that again for 4 years was different, yeah.
There is that small issue of the rand and the US dollar.
Yeah.
How was that balance for you, realizing just how expensive things can get, especially using our currency?
I had to stop converting after a while because then it just felt like I was just going to starve myself. But, in college it was difficult realizing that this is how much it costs just to live life. I was very grateful for the fact that I was on a full scholarship, so it didn't seem too bad for me. I was able to, manage the funds correctly and not have to worry about not having anything.
You went professional at a very young age. From a financial aspect of being a pro golfer, what surprised you during your first year?
What surprised me was definitely nothing comes for free. A lot of these things you have to fight for sponsorships just to get through life. The clubs, clothing, affiliations, everything just starts costing a lot, especially now you've just turned pro, you haven't made anything on tour yet. You just want to get going, but it's hard to even get to that first step without having people behind you to support you.
What most people don't know about golfers is that it may look like an individual sport, but there's a whole team behind you as well. How have you dealt with the pressure of knowing that what a win means for you and your team and what a loss can potentially mean for the team?
I'm too early on in my career to have a full team of people behind me, but there are a handful of people that I do look for help, and it's insane where it's always in the back of your mind that, oh, I have to pay my coach, oh, I have to go pay my trainer, oh no, I missed the cut. It really does become difficult, especially when you're not playing as well. The opposite for when you win. I mean, it's fantastic. You just start paying everyone because now you've got the funds to do so. Yeah. So it's such a roller coaster of emotions, being a pro, especially.
For somebody who wouldn't understand making the cut, what financial impact does that have on a golfer where you place during a tournament?
I think a lot of people, they try not to think about the cut. It's a very mental thing. Some people are afraid of thinking of the cut just because, at that point you're aiming for the bare minimum. A lot of us, you're trying to win every tournament, so the cut should be the least of your worries. But for a lot of people, that's not the case. So that cut line is what they aim for. However, if you finish last after making the cut, you're not making much to cover your expenses even. So definitely it really matters where you finish above the cut line, because it determines like, hey, yeah, I just made the cut, but I don't have enough to get myself home. Or I don't have enough to pay for, I flew here, or I rented a car. I don't have enough to pay for that. So it really does make a difference.
Would you say there's more pressure in making the final putt or managing your finances at the moment?
Oh, I think making the putts is a little bit harder right now. A lot of mental stuff goes into now becoming a professional. Obviously, when I was an amateur, we were not playing for any sort of money. I mean, now that I've been professional, every putt matters, every shot matters. You can't, let your judgment lapse for a second, because at the end of the day, one shot could cost you a tournament win, or one shot could, you didn't make the cut because of that one shot. So it all makes a difference. And obviously, once the money starts flowing in, once you start playing a lot better, it becomes a bit easier to manage your finances.
Would you say that's the most important thing right now, focusing on providing the finances, especially for women's sports? Because like you say, there's a lot of pressure to make it, but also to perform at a level that will make sure that you are also sorted out financially.
The men's Sunshine Tour get televised every weekend for their tournaments. I believe that Sunshine Ladies Tour is just on par with them, but we just get highlights on SuperSport. We don't get any sort of live TV coverage. We came back from a tournament where we had been co-sanctioned with the men's Sunshine Tour, and they were on the 2 golf courses that had the cameras, they had the TV towers, and we did not. So just the visibility of women's golf, I think, needs to be improved for sure. I think once we can get our image out there, it really does help companies to see us and to help us out a little bit more.
And that's not just sponsorship, that's not just money, but also being seen. Young women, young children watching you play the sport is very important.
It's a visibility thing. I'm grateful to Investec, who saw me and helped me get to where I am, and I can't wait to see where we go. But there's a lot of girls out there that just don't have that opportunity. It's TV ratings. That's a reason why the men can play for such a higher purse than we can, is because they get the visibility every week, whereas we get highlights, and you kind of hope that the right people see it.
You've traveled all around the world. You've seen things that you probably liked from the shop floor. What are the biggest money mistakes that you've made along the way?
This is something that I really wanted to push very deep down in my brain and try and not remember. I'd been traveling with the Golf RSA national squad, and I really wanted a watch. Just, a nice looking watch that I could use, because obviously for me, I see the men on TV and you can see they don't play golf with a watch on, but when they hold the trophy, they've got a nice Rolex on, or, I kind of wanted something like that. We had gone to Japan and we were in the airport. I see a watch shop and I'm looking around and I see something that I really liked. So I obviously put it into Google. I put in the currency conversion and everything. And I'm like, oh, it's actually not that bad. So I decided to purchase it and I was very happy with it. Had it sized to my wrist. I was super happy. And I get on the plane from Japan. We landed in Hong Kong and I got many, many messages and phone calls saying, what happened? And I'm thinking, I have no idea. What do you mean? So I won't give away numbers, but I made a very big purchase. And unfortunately, I had calculated the currency wrong. I had misread a zero. But everything, long story short, got sorted out. But after that, I've become really careful with currency exchanges for sure.
I can imagine. But did you at least buy a watch after that?
No, I did not. I left it. I was like, I don't need a watch. It's fine.
You left the whole thing altogether.
Yeah.
Was it hard convincing your parents that, you didn't want to go the doctor route or the usual accountant or the lawyer route?
No, it wasn't hard at all. I mean, my mom strayed far from what, is stereotypically known for Indian people to do. So doctor, lawyer, accountant. She had strayed away from a young age, and her parents, so my grandparents, were very accepting of that. So I'm grateful for the fact that she was brought up that way and that, she was able to raise me in the way that I didn't have to follow in the traditional norms of what Indian people are supposed to do. She let me branch out and do whatever I wanted to do that would make me happy, and that's all that mattered. Yeah.
So far, so good. I mean,
Yeah.
You've been doing so well, representing the country at some point as well, but also one of the best young golfers we have now in the country. Looking at going forward, what would you like to see change in golf, especially for women?
Companies need to see us. There's a lot of women out there that they don't have sponsors to even get them off of the ground level. And that's what's important, because once you realize, it's a lot of money to just play your first tournament. It's not even the equipment. A lot of people use equipment from 5-6 years ago. It's just more about, how do you get to the first tournament? How do I pay the entry fee? That's the most important part, because once you start playing and once you start earning something, it becomes a lot easier after that. But again, what we make and the prize purses that we play for are not enough to sustain our lifestyles. It's not. So a lot of the time, sponsorships really do help with that. So, having a live showing on SuperSport, or having, more people come out and watch for tournaments that are in their area, it really does help for the right people to see it.
What do you think sponsors still need to understand about professional women athletes? Because there's this big misconception that it always has to do with the numbers, the viewership on TV, and that's why men get more.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you like them to understand?
Whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, it costs you the same amount. It costs you the same amount to enter a tournament. It costs you the same amount to have enough golf clubs, to have balls, to have clothing. For a man or a woman, it's the same price. So it's a bit weird for us to be playing for less when the men can play for more. But at the end of the day, my expenses look just like theirs. So I think it's a big thing that with the visibility, with being on TV, with having patrons come out and watch us play tournaments, that definitely helps. But it's just the understanding of everything for myself, and comparing it to someone else, to a male in the field, is just the same. We have to pay for the same things.
If the margins are that tight when it comes to money, how important then is it to have that support in terms of sponsorship that back you as you play, but also people that advise you on your contract that you sign and some of the deals you go into?
It's very important. You could sign something that you just might be signing your life rights away. You really have no idea. So it's important to have people behind you that can, and sponsors behind you that can advise you and help you go through the motions with whatever you need done. With Investec, it's been fantastic having them behind me, supporting me in every step that I take, whether it's, playing well, whether I'm practicing or playing in pro-ams or golf days that they ask me to come to. It's just all about networking. So to have them behind me has been fantastic.
It really does sound like with the golfing career, It's very important for you to be disciplined with your money and how you manage it in order to make it to all these tours, be able to pay your team, have the right accommodation, and also nourish yourself as an athlete the right way. What money lessons have you brought along the way as a young person, maybe that you got from your own family or friends that still, pay dividend today?
I mean, my family has been a very big saver type of mentality, in the sense that, you save if you want something, or if you need something, or if something happens later on in life, you have something that will help you. So we've just been big on saving, and that's probably the main thing that I've brought along with me, is saving, is because life is so unpredictable now that anything can happen. But even, the small wants and needs that you may need later on, that you've got the money to do that. You never have to go into debt for something that's instant gratification. There's no need for that. So it's definitely saving.
Kayuree, how do you handle the bad days when things aren't going your way? Your game is just not right, because those days do come. How do you handle that and still protecting your love for golf as you go through that?
It's really tough. I think obviously we, especially for all of us, we practice hard, we put in a lot of time, a lot of effort. We make sure we're eating right, and, for things to not work out the way you want them to is pretty disappointing. It just kind of feels like you're going through all of that effort really for nothing. I mean, I had a great sunshine season last year, finishing 6th on the Investec Order of Merit and winning the Rookie of the Year. But I went to Europe, and nothing had translated over into Europe. So I didn't do really well at all. And it's pretty hard because, you're still spending the same amount of money especially in Europe, it's even more expensive. It's not, I just drive to Pretoria and play. You're flying to Sweden, to Australia, any order of places in Europe. You're paying to be there, you're paying for visas. A lot of the exchange rates are horrible. It amplifies the loss a lot more, because instead of making zero that month, you're making negative, which is not really a good sign. So it's tough in that moment. But for me, what I've learned is that I am trying to remember why I play golf. Why do I love what I do? Why did I choose to be on a golf course rather than a 9-to-5 job? And that's, I believe, is what's been helping me. After that slump, I got a little bit better. I had 2 wins last year. So that mindset definitely helped, and I'm taking it into this year as well.
Does it make you miss playing golf just for fun?
It does. It really does. It makes me miss playing golf where there were no consequences. But again, that's the part of being a professional athlete, golfing specifically, is that you don't have a paycheck. You just, everything is performance based. So the harder you work, the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it, for sure.
Your mother was a big inspiration in your own life, in that you saw somebody in a career that was far different from the norm, and she also pushed you to get into uncharted territory in terms of playing golf as a career. How heavy has the burden been carrying that, knowing that people have backed you all this way, so you absolutely have to make it?
From a young age, obviously my mom had pushed me into playing golf, or kind of straying away from the norm. But I think it was super obvious that I just was not book smart. It was just not something that came to me naturally. I mean, I just wanted to be outside. I never wanted to sit down and actually do homework or do school-related tasks. It just wasn't something that I was inclined to doing. And I think my mom and my dad both noticed that, and they wanted me to get my degree. They wanted me to finish matric. So it was never an excuse. I obviously had to power through doing that, and making sure that I do have a backup plan. But they could see I was not book smart. So they understood that, or they understood the reason why I could never go into being a doctor or being a lawyer, an accountant. I can't even see myself doing that. So I can imagine they definitely didn't see it either.
You then got the business degree. And as much as you say you're not book smart, not anybody can get a business degree.
I have the business degree only because it is my backup plan, that, if something were to happen, I can go and work. I went to college because that was the best way for me to, export on my horizons with golf. The reason why I went to the States was because I was competing with people that I had never seen from around the world who could win every tournament, whereas I was not used to that here. I knew I was going to be a professional from such a young age, so everything that I did was to make that experience, or for me to understand what the experience was really like, because being a professional and being an amateur are two completely different things. That's why I have the degree, but it's just a backup plan.
So as your game improves and you go into more years as a professional golfer, have you thought about getting a financial caddy, somebody who will walk with you along the way in creating wealth for yourself, but also just securing your financial future?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, now since it's the start of my second year on tour, definitely that's something that I am thinking about in terms of, making it a bit easier on my part, because obviously, again, with, making mistakes in the past, it becomes, you become a bit tentative with trusting other people or anyone that's not your family. So for right now, my parents help me with that, but definitely later on in life, for sure, to have someone that will help invest, help make the money grow for me while I'm out playing will be fantastic.
And what are some of those things that you still want to learn about money? Because there's a big conversation around financial literacy and athletes and how, you can structure your own career, no matter how long it becomes or how short it is, given injury and things like that, but you'd still be secure in your finances. So what are those things that you still want to learn, or you're curious about money?
Definitely with investing. I have a business degree, and obviously in the United States, business is a little bit different than it is here, but just investing, I think it's so important for, for sports people, whether you're a golfer, soccer player, whatever it may be. Injury is, it does happen. There are things, and to be able to invest and make sure that while you are either out recovering or you're playing or practicing, even if you're in season, that it's growing for you, that it's not just sitting there and not earning any interest, it's not doing anything for you. So for sure, to learn how to invest.
Golf is often known as where the deals are cut and a lot of business is done and people talk about money as they play the rounds. Or is it the same for professional golfers? Do you guys talk about money, things you'd like to invest in, how things are looking?
I'm sure maybe for the men. I've never heard the conversation come from women specifically, or any of the pros that I've played with. I'm sure maybe they still think I'm pretty young to know things like that, but I've never heard of the conversation, especially not when I've been around. But definitely, like, playing with amateurs, I play a lot with amateurs, whether it's in a tournament now or just on a regular Saturday just to play golf. I mean, just they always ask and try and understand, what is it like for a woman to play golf, because they obviously see the men and, they ask, oh, where did we play? Where did I finish? It's things like that where I have to post on social media for people to keep up with me. Otherwise, they really have no idea how I'm doing. So definitely with amateurs, you can chat about it a little bit, but money is not really something that we talk about amongst the professionals.
You've now been pro for 2 years. Have you thought about the longevity of your own career and how you'd like to structure your finances based on that?
I think it's a little early for me to think about the longevity. Obviously, everyone starting out, wants to play golf until they're 80 years old. So it's a small thing that, I really do want to play for as long as I can. I don't know how long that will be, or when the time will be done. But, I think every year I do think about, what, at some point there's going to be a time where I'm going to need to stop. There's going to be a reason, and I want to be prepared for that. So I think I've structured my finances to a point where I know that whenever something is to happen, and touch wood, nothing does, but if anything were to happen, I will be okay. So it's at least, thinking about that extra step. But I try not to think about it because, again, I'd like to be one of the ladies that play until they're 80. So
fingers crossed you do. As Kaiyuree Moodley, what kind of legacy would you like to leave?
I just want girls that look like me. They don't even have to look like me, just little girls. I just want them to follow their dreams. That no matter what mold society puts you in, that you can break that mold. You don't even have to go into that mold. So whether it's in academics or whether it's in sports, it's really important that you break it through.
You've done a lot of great work in a very short space of time, and I imagine your career will be far, far bigger, right? What would you say to that young Kayuree that still had the plastic golf clubs, just about how big they've dreamt?
I think young me would be really impressed with how far I came. I was thinking about it the other day. I play on the Ladies European Tour as well, and I used to see all these girls on TV playing on the LPGA, playing on LET, and it's weird for me to think now that I'm among those people now. Like, I get to walk the same grounds as they do. I played the same courses that they do. So I think younger me would be super proud.
Do you think there should be more focus in teaching young athletes about money?
It's definitely a life skill that I wish I knew earlier on in life. I really do think putting focus on financial literacy and knowing how to spend your money and, learning how to do your taxes. I feel like that's such an underestimated thing, but, we never learned how to do it unless you took accounting in school. I didn't, so I don't know if they taught you how to do that, but, just small things like that would really help younger kids now, especially when they grow up, to learn more about financial literacy.
What financial goals do you still have for yourself?
So I haven't really set any financial goals for myself.
No, but you with Investec, so
yes,
that's definitely going to be a conversation
absolutely,
that happens because they're open to that, the investing and creating your own wealth. Are you looking forward in terms of that partnership to say it's not only on the field but also in sorting out your own finances?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to, they seem to make our dreams come to life. They've most definitely made my dream come to life with our partnership. So I'm excited to have a moment with them and sit down and kind of, plan out the rest of my future, plan out the rest of my life and see, what's more that I can do that can help myself later on in life. So I am excited.
You've spoken about the sacrifice that's gone into the career that you have now. If you had to thank the people that have played a part, and I'm sure you'd talk until the sun went down, but what would you like to say to them, those that have backed you, that have been there even when things weren't easy?
Yeah, obviously my parents, they have been obviously through it with me through thick and thin, especially last year when I was on such a high from Sunshine and then it kind of just came tumbling down on LET. They've been the main people. Obviously, I have coaches that I could thank for getting my game to where it is now, to where I feel like I am the best player in the world. To mental coaches, my friends and family. Yeah, definitely them. Got the tears going.
It is sacrifice, right? And when you think about it, just how much has gone into the success that you've achieved so far, you've done really well. We're proud of you. And I'm
Thanks.
sure the family at Investec is as well. We look forward to some of the accolades that you're still going to get. Well done.
Thank you.
Kaiyuree, thank you so much for your time. A very powerful and honest conversation. That's it this week from us here at Everything Counts Sports Edition. Remember to subscribe to Investec Focus Radio SA on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple for more episodes of Everything Counts.